What's good, guys? Welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel. And y'all know, beside the updates, beside the news, I also like to bring topics that I can get my humble opinion about. And in this case, I would like to speak about a controversial topic that I've been seeing in a lot of groups. A lot of brothers, they already predicting, they already saying that Venezuela, the country next to Colombia, is gonna be the new Paso Bros destination for 2025. Let's speak about this and let's jump in this new video. In the past weeks, it's been a lot of dramas between the US and also Venezuela, but I think that this is not new. Since I have memory and since I am in this world, since I watch in TV, I think always have been seeing a lot of drama between Venezuela and the US since Hugo Chavez was the president of Venezuela, and majority of the president of Venezuela, they get along with the president of the US and with the people from the US. Is because the majority of the cases because they had to, you know what I mean? I'm not saying all the Venezuelans, but talking about the government people, they get along because they had to. But in the past few weeks, Donald Trump, he has sent some army boats to be against the white business people, the one who transport, the white business to the US and to all over the world. The US have a lot of army boats close to the Venezuelan coast, and they there to protect that area and to make sure, they don't bring the business to the destination, you know what I mean? And actually, I think a few days ago, United States, they deleted a boat with 11 people in the Venezuelan coast because they say they went transporting, white business. But the way is not a secret that Colombian guy, myself, I'm in a lot of groups like Paso Bros, Blue Passport Cartels, the Black Men Troubles, and many other groups. I use those groups to promote my business and many other things, and also, to see what's going on. You know what I mean? Because even I'm Colombian, sometimes there is people that is brothers who are from America that they send me news that they want me to post or topics that they want me to talk about on the channel. You know what I mean? And like 2-3 days ago, I saw a comment about somebody saying that Venezuela is going to be the new destination for Paso Bros in 2025 once they clean up Venezuela, because he's hoping that the US can clean up Venezuela, and I hope in that too. It don't matter if it's the US or something, but Venezuela need to get back to what it was. These people need to go back to their home. It's not because I wanted to go home, it's because they deserve to be at home, because the country was a successful country once in life. You know what I mean? It's not now, but it used to be better than my country. But when brothers saying that, I think like they don't look back, and this is not something that I have against, Paso Bros, and it's not something that I have against brothers. But when they say that, I think, they just say that to say, you know what I mean? Because when you say that, you need to make sure, you need to look back on the history, and you need to know the culture about Venezuelans, about who they are, where they come from. Because even in Colombia, I can speak about how Colombians are, because I can speak for Colombians, because I can speak for Colombians from Caribbean like me. I live in the Caribbean of Colombia, the Caribbean coast, but I can speak for Colombians who live in Medellin. I've been there a few times, and I can speak a little bit about the culture, but I can speak for the ones in Bogota, all of that. I do know a little things, but I don't know everything about them. You know what I mean? So when they say that, you got to double check and make sure about what you're saying, because the working girls, which is the main reason why a lot of brothers come to Colombia and they thinking it's going to be the same in Venezuela, and that's the point that they have wrong. You know what I mean? Because majority of these working girls who are working in Gerard's Park, who are working at the clock tower, majority of those women at home, they didn't do nothing. The husband was working for them. So when they are at their home country, they don't like to do those type of job. You know what I mean? So don't come with the idea that these women that are working at Gerard's Park and at the clock tower in Cartagena, don't come with the idea that it's gonna be the same back at the country, because majority of them, they get used to, or they are used to the husband to take care of the house. So you will see the same quality of girl that work at Gerard's Park, that work at the clock tower, working at the squares, the popular squares in Venezuela, if Venezuela gets better. because between Venezuelan women and Colombian women, Colombian women they work harder because Venezuela, like I said, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of brothers need to look back on the history of Venezuela because Venezuela was super successful, and if it's a successful country, and it was different because U.S. is a successful country, but a lot of girls, a lot of girls and women, they had to work. In Venezuela, wasn't like that. Majority of the women, my cousins and people that I know, because I have a lot of family that they were born in Venezuela, and majority of them, they had told me many times, plenty of times, that they didn't like the women to work. They didn't like that part because they were the men, they the men, and they were providing. But when they come to Colombia, the history of all these beautiful women, bad women, the baddies, one with the big eyes, all of that, everything changed. Because in Colombia, it's not a country that they get things, like right away. Before, back then in Venezuela, these Venezuelan people who live here and who live in other countries, they were getting a lot of benefits from the government. Once they come to Colombia, once they arrive in Colombia, they realize that things here, they were not like back home. So they were not get nothing. They were not, they knew that they were not gonna get like nothing from the government. You know what I mean? So they didn't have more choice than work. That's the reason why I was watching the news the other day, and the mayor of Cartagena was saying that almost 90% of the working girls in the clock tower and also in Medellin, like 95%, they from Venezuela. And the reason what they've been saying that is because a lot of women and a lot of men in the Colombian culture and a lot of cultures in the Latino culture, they think that being a working girl is an easy job for a woman. So that's an easy way for them to get money. You know what I mean? And I think ain't easy like that because this girl, sometimes those girls, they had to go through a lot. But at the end of the day, that's a choice. That's a decision that they have made. But like that's the reason what I think that a lot of women they dedicated to that life because they think it's easier because working girls in Cartagena they make more money than the miner from the restaurants and the woman that work in a hospital or something they make way more money than that. So even this like those women in Colombia they call women from easy life because they think everything comes easier for them. So my advice, fellas, is like don't be thinking it's a process, for Venezuela to get into the country that Venezuela used to be. Now the U.S. is around Venezuela, is on their territory, but they haven't got into the country. You know what I mean? So don't come with the idea that things in Venezuela are gonna be like at your spot and like in the clock tower in Cartagena. A lot of brothers, like I said, they need to look back on the history and see like a lot of people in Venezuela, in the country of Venezuela, they've been tough to feel some type of way. They've been teaching at home to feel some type of way about Americans. You know what I mean? And every tourist can be welcome over there if they get back to the reality, but to what the country that they used to be. But the thing is like they won't be welcome like in Colombia because one of the countries that I would say that they really felt some type of way about Americans are Venezuelans. And I'm not saying like everybody and the mama, but think about this. When Chavez was the president, they always been getting problem with the country of the United States, with the United States. Venezuela, they always been in trouble with the United States for oil, for some things, for anything, but they don't really get along, with the United States unless that they had to make business. But other than that, I don't think and I don't feel even Venezuelans could be very friendly and very tough too. But I don't feel, like Americans, a lot of Americans can be welcome in Venezuela. You know what I mean? Because of the behavior that already is. It's not like I'm creating this because I want y'all to come to Colombia and I just want y'all to come to Cartagena to spend money here and hire me as a tour guide or something. No, it's not just like that. It's just about history and behaviors. And like I said, these women's back at home, they don't do nothing. So don't expect to come with the idea, it's gonna be like full of working girls, because Venezuela women, they beautiful. They beautiful women. They so amazing women. They can be really good women too. You know what I mean? But don't think like these women that we had this behavior back at home. That's the same reason why they don't like to be recording video, because a lot of these women, they be ashamed with the family if they know what they're doing at Joyous Park, if they know what they're doing at the Clock Tower. That's when you pull up a camera and then they be like, don't record me, because social media, the video can go viral and they can be seen by the families that they're gonna be ashamed. You know what I mean? But I understand at the same time that those women are women that probably are not used to work hard. They were getting everything by the husband or by the father or by the family, and they didn't have to do nothing. Just be at home, clean, cook, and worse of the case. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's funny because a lot of brothers, they don't even know what they talk about. They don't even know nothing about that, and they feel like they have a master's degree, that they have a license to talk about women, all of that, and ain't like that. You know what I mean? To talk about Colombians, Venezuelans, all those countries, at least you gotta prove me that you been outside of the Clock Tower in Cartagena, outside of Joyous Park. Because if you just a regular tourist for me, you ain't somebody with a lot of experience in Colombia. You know what I mean? If you don't even speak our language, you don't even. You know what? There is brothers who don't know the difference between Venezuelans and Colombians. Because if you are Spanish, if you are Colombian, and if you hear a Venezuelan talking, you automatically will realize that this person is from Venezuela by the way they talk. A lot of Colombian women, they've been telling these men that they are Venezuelans, that they believe them, because they don't know the fucking difference. You know what I mean? So don't try to prove like, Venezuela is gonna be the new destination for Pastor Bros, because ain't like that. And this is something that I would say, that Venezuelan gangs, they different than Colombian guys. They very rough. And if they come with the clumsy people, the stupid people that go to Medellin, and they fall in those traps super easy, I can imagine how bad it's gonna be in Venezuela. I can imagine that, because Venezuela back then used to be one of the most dangerous countries in the planet, in the world. You know what I mean? So I can imagine if Venezuela gets back to their reality, I can imagine the same amount of tourists or brothers who goes to Medellin and who come to Cartagena to find the slice of pizza. I can imagine how the disaster that is gonna be in Venezuela. You know what I mean? So Venezuela and Colombia, they almost, like sister countries, but we are very different. The culture, ain't like that. You know what I mean? Venezuela people, they are very fancy, majority of them, because they used to get fancy things. My grandma, like I've been saying a lot of the videos, and a lot of my members of my family, they got rich of Venezuela. Because of Venezuela, they got rich. They get rich in Colombia. They own a lot of properties. So don't think like those women, that's what they've been doing for life. That's what they have to do right now. But that's something that they are not used to do. But now, because their situation is forcing them to get fancy things the way that they had to get it, that they had to go to the Clock Tower in Cartagena, to Joyous Park. Don't think that that's their behavior. Don't think that that's something that they do back at the home. I'm not saying not all of them, but majority of them, I'm sure 100% that's not something that they're gonna do back home. They are doing it here because they know with the minimum wage in Colombia, it's not a lot that you can do. You know what I mean? So they don't have more choice than for them to get fancy things. They had to do that. They had to sell, the slice of pizza, but that's not something that majority of these women that we do back at home. There is some others that they can be everywhere. They can be in Dubai. They can be, Sweden. They can be anywhere. But, they will sell the slide of pizza over there because that's something that they enjoy to do. But 95%, 93% of the women that they've been doing the job, they don't like to do that. And I'm not saying this because I'm hoping you guys feel, sorry about them. I'm not saying this or that because at the end of the day, brothers got problems too. And they don't come here to take the problems to these working girls. But what I'm saying is like, don't think, that that's something that majority of them, they happy to do. You know what I mean? I've been talking working girls that they've been crying in front of me, revealing me a lot of shit because I didn't even ask for it. But, that they felt like, they need to be listened by somebody. You know what I mean? So, fellas, this is my humble opinion about all of this. Don't think like all countries, in South America and Latin America is an adult service destination because that's the wrong point, the first wrong point that you're making. You know what I mean? You go, be over there. If it happen, it happen. If it don't, it don't. You know what I mean? But like I say, don't think that because majority of these girls, that's what they do here. That's not something that they will do back at home. So think twice before you're saying that Venezuela is gonna be a possible destination because it ain't like that. You know what I mean? So fellas, see you soon guys on the next video. I hope you guys like my video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything. This was Carlos, the Colombian guy. Boom.